A very good evening, warm welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, presented by Pick and Pay. Welcome to the Dan Really Likes Wine Cellar, and welcome to a very international show. Now, I'll give you a moment or two to guess what I might be wearing, and you can send your comments in as you do so often, because those both link to our guests today, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Two guests from very different parts of the world who find themselves here in South Africa and are joined not just by an invitation to be on Dan Really Likes Wine, but by a deep and passionate love of the world of wine. They sit in slightly different spaces, but they really do both love what they do and are experts when coming to talking about wine, which is exactly why we've got them on the show this evening. I'll explain who they are in just a moment. But before we get going, a couple of things I wanted to point out. One of them, if you haven't got it already, a ticket to Wine Future. That is the 23rd to the 26th of February. Kicks off every evening, South African time at 5 p.m. with a range of people from right around the world speaking over 4 days, including South Africa's own Karina Gauss, Siobhan Thompson, and Mike Radcliffe. How's this for a lineup? Francis Ford Coppola is on that list. Jesse makes some rather good movies, but far better known for making wine, and the American director and film savant will be part of that 4-day conference looking at where the world of wine is headed across a broad spectrum of spaces. I'm really excited to be playing a part of it, and very excited to give you a very good deal. Now, normally it's 125 euros for a ticket for all 4 days, either live or watching recorded. But here you go, using that DNICL60 discount code, comes down to just 65 euros for the 4 days, an extraordinary selection of speakers. And if you're in the broader wine industry, then this is not one that you want to miss. So head over to the website. It is winefuture2021.com. And when you get there, use that DNICL60 code, and that'll get you a fabulous, fabulous discount. It's going to be a terrific 4 days, and I really hope you'll be able to join me, Pancho, and David, the two organizers, and all of those fabulous guests. Now, you've also got the chance, if you're really at a loose end, a little later on this evening, if you're interested in golf, over on the Dan Nichols Show Instagram Live, I'll be chatting to Casey Jarvis. He's just won the African Amateur. He won the South African Amateur Stroke Play, South African Amateur Match Play, Best Amateur at the South African Open. He's broken into the top 50 of the world rankings for amateur golfers, and he is my guest on the Dan Nichols Show Instagram Live. That is at 6 o'clock. But for now, through until 6 o'clock, two great guys in the wine industry. Now, why am I wearing green and white stripes? Now, if you just look up to here, this could pass as a Celtic jersey. And I'm not sure if he's a Celtic fan, but we do have a Scotsman with us. Damien from Waterford finds himself out in South Africa, where he looks after the brand and does so with great care and attention, including important jobs like sending me lots of cases of wine. The one that arrived most recently was from the Waterford Society. What is the society? How does it work? How do you get involved? We'll find out from Damien in the second half of the show. But it isn't actually a Celtic jersey, because if you look a little higher up, you'll see here the Zimbabwe rugby logo. This is my Zimbabwe rugby jersey from my dear, dear friend Maruza, who's a fellow Zimbabwean but now lives up in Kenya. And this was a gift. And the reason I'm wearing it is because Wellington Muromba is my opening guest this evening. He's newly appointed chair of the BLACC Cellar Club, which is filling such an important space in the South African wine conversation. We tried to chat to him on Monday. We had a few technical issues. We've been able to rope him back in. He's also out at Altydgedacht, which is a good Shona word we'll get to Wellington to pronounce for us. We're going to have a couple of glasses of their wine and talk about his journey, and we'll do that starting right now. Wellington, good evening, and a very warm welcome back, properly this time, to Dan Really Likes Wine.
Thank you very much, Danny. Good evening to you, and good evening to all our guests who are listening to this show. It's quite a great honor to be back again on the show, especially after last week, and I think it looks much, much better today.
It does indeed. The internet is crisp, but even the internet isn't looking quite as happy as you are, Wellington. There's a big smile on face, and rightfully so. As we say in Zimbabwe, Makorokoto Shamori, it's a wonderful announcement. The BLACC Cellar Club, you are the new chairperson, to which some people, understandably, because it's a small group and it hasn't been going that long, will be saying, well, what on earth is the BLACC Cellar Club? So help us out here, Wellington. Explain to us what the BLACC Cellar Club is and why it means so much to you to be the new chair.
Oh, thank you very much. Salibonani, Molweni, Kwazwai, Linjani, Makadini, how are you? Whitten Morgan, Whitten can't. Oh, go. I'm so honored, first and foremost, to be elected as the new chairman of the BLACC Cellar Club. It's a phenomenal and a very important role, especially in the history of the wine industry of South Africa, of Africa, and of all the passionate wine lovers in the world. This is a very important time in the history of South Africa, of the wine industry, when I get to take this seat and following some of the leaders, the passionate pioneers of this movement, we have taken their time to start a group that is concerned and managing and passionate and following all the trends and the strides in the wine industry. Wine industry was effectively evolving into greater heights, and COVID came, and quite a couple of challenges that we were going through as an industry. The local markets are crashing, and the international market is having challenges. And it's such a very crucial moment in the history of wine, where we have to revisit, relook, and rebuild the industry. I want to say, let me go straight to the BLACC Cellar Club. BLACC Cellar Club is a voluntary association established due to the genuine need for an organization that could reach out to Black Africans who were interested in furthering their wine knowledge and were passionate about wine industry, not only in South Africa, but also in Africa at large. The vision of our founders was quite profound and large, and they started at South African level, given that South Africa is one of the countries that has got a great history of wine. And most of our members have moved from South Africa to other parts of Africa and to the European communities. Therefore, you'd realize that the BLACC Cellar Club might not only be South African centered, but also goes into different parts of Africa and also looking into the other chapters in the European communities. The BLACC Cellar Club is managed by a code of our constitution, and we are guided by our primary mandate and objective. And the main objective, the primary objective is to achieve public benefit through social activities and cultural interests. I always say wine is a lifestyle. Wine is a passion. Wine is something that brings people together, and that just cements the moments of life that each and every time we meet and experience. And there's nothing that can surpass that, to spend great moments sharing a glass of wine. It's just something so great that we share as beings. The BLACC Cellar Club aim to achieve Black empowerment. Black communities were known for not much knowledge, or let me say, not much exposure in the wine industry. And the BLACC Cellar Club aims to empower our communities, our members, to relate better to beverages, to wine, and to take that social responsibility, especially now in the time of COVID-19. It's very important that our communities are able to take that responsibility, because due to alcohol, some people end up doing certain things that are totally out of order. And we want to teach, we want to educate our communities to be responsible when they enjoy their alcoholic beverages, which is very, very important. We don't want to go back to another lockdown. We don't want to go back to other restrictions, but we want the industry to grow. We want people to enjoy all the things that they used to enjoy before. So as the BLACC Cellar Club, we want to empower our communities, and we want to teach social responsibility, social responsible drinking and responsible consumption. BLACC Cellar Club undertakes commercial activities. As much as I said, it's a non-profit organization. Yes, it is. We also undertake commercial activities, and all the proceeds from these activities are reinvested or replowed to benefit the members, to benefit our communities, and to promote the agenda of the BLACC Cellar Club. And this is quite, to me, very, very phenomenal. And it's coming at a time when you are saying our foremost initiatives: save South African wine, drink South African wine. Wherever you are, buy South African wine.
A very impassioned understanding of exactly what the BLACC Cellar Club is about. You've clearly got the right man at the helm, Wellington. You tell a great story around this space, and it's a story that clearly stems from your own love of wine. And having spoken to a number of your fellow Zimbabweans who've come down, who've made their way into wine, if you look at somebody like Joseph, now at La Colombe, Tinashe Nyamudoka making his own terrific wine after leaving the test kitchen, Lovemore we had up at Coobs here in Johannesburg, so many different guys who their story tends to start the same way. I didn't actually know much about wine. So I'd like to find out about your story, Wellington. How did you find your way into the world of wine, and what was it about wine that gripped you and said, this is something I really want to explore?
It's quite a very interesting question, Dan. And I think the story, like what you said, always goes back to the same that, you know, in Zimbabwe, the exposure of wine is not something very common. And when I was back home, then I think I've been in South Africa for 12 years now. I never had tasted wine in my life. I was a high school teacher, teaching maths and agriculture, and I was just passionate about the numbers. And afterwards, I go and grow my tomatoes and my crops and my vegetables. And that, to me, teaching was just something very, very important. And coming to South Africa, I started as a teacher for a year or two, and then I always loved coffee. And I worked for a company called Origin Coffee Roasting with Joel Singer and George Kambangla, and those guys were so passionate about coffee that I also take another step to actually study coffee and understand, and they get lots of education there in terms of coffee. I used to take like 10 different seeds and be able to distinguish this seed is from Guatemala, this seed is from Tanzania, this seed is from Rwanda. And when I'm doing the cuppings and to put up the coffee profile so that we can classify them and give them grades. From there, I just developed a passion to study wine. I watched this movie about wine sommeliers, and I was so keen to say, what is this? I've never drank wine in my life. I don't drink wine. This, I think, was almost the fourth year in South Africa, and had never drink any glass of wine. And my first glass of wine was some kind of red wine mixed with Coca-Cola, and it was tasting really good. Then I went on a time to study. I studied WSET. I did my level 2, and I did my level 3. I studied also lots of online courses and lots of learning, attending some of the international events, national events that includes the South African testing every year, where you test and they choose who should go to overseas to go to represent the country. Tinashe, Joseph, Pardon, and most of the guys, they are really doing great, which is quite amazing. And I've done several testing with them and a couple of wine judging with most of the guys in the industry. I worked for Wine Concepts after that, and with Mike Dagan, Mike Bamfield Dagan, who is one of the legends, one of the guys that I really respect in the wine industry, with his passion for wine and his greatness. He taught me quite a lot of things at Wine Concept, and he really boosted my passion to understand wine and to grow myself better and better into the wine industry. After working for Wine Concept, I also worked for the Test Kitchen Group at South Sophie, where lots of wine testing, wine and food pairing, just those great experiences were meeting together. I've always been so passionate for entrepreneurship. I did work for a couple of general manager at the Devil's Peak Group. I also worked for a group of coffee shops as the manager there, the Vovotello Group. But I also worked at, I opened my own wine shop. I decided to take a step of faith and went to Joburg, which I believed was quite a greater market in terms of wine, or I'll do something a bit different, something unique, a great concept. And that's when I went to Joburg and opened my own wine shop called Wine Unlimited. I think most of the guys, most of the winemakers, most of the people in the industry, they have been there, and they had great experiences, where I wanted to create a true and authentic wineland experience in Gauteng, which was something phenomenal. And it was a place where you could come and you feel you're actually at a wine farm with an amazing tasting room with a great selection of wines, 80% from South Africa, 20% from all over the world. And it was the place to be. Unfortunately, we had to diversify it and change it to a bistro due to COVID now. But there's still wines there, and my other business partner has moved to another place. So that was Wellington's journey in terms of wine. I'm back in Cape Town now, and yes, I'm really passionate about wine more than before.
As we can see, the journey from school teacher via a whole range of jobs into wine, and where we find you now, Wellington, which is a wine estate with a slightly challenging name for Zimbabweans. How long did it take you to master Altydgedacht?
Oh, wow. So today I met one of the directors, and I had to go through, you know, when in school we used to say it, when you are pronouncing a statement, you say ta, 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 ta. You know, that kind of vibe. So it's Altydgedacht. Altydgedacht. You need a Altydgedacht. It's a bit vicious. It means always in my thoughts, to lighten it. Altydgedacht, it's quite a place of premium wines. You know, I always want to showcase wines that defines my passion and that I take pride in, and I'm really honored to present these wines. And at Altydgedacht, I'm the new brand ambassador and sommelier. And I'm really enjoying having these beautiful wines around me.
Let's try a couple of them. I know you had wanted to try some of the Pinotage and some of the Chenin, because you're very big on promoting and supporting the South African wine story. And I see Ina Smith from the Chenin Blanc Association is actually watching, saying another fascinating wine journey. Well, Ina, you're going to be very cross with me because I wasn't able to get hold of the Chenin in time, unfortunately. So we're going to have to do that another time, Wellington. But we do have two fabulous to try. There it is. There's the Chenin. Wellington's got it. I don't. But what we do have to try, Wellington, two particularly good wines. I see one more comment there. Ngoni Mtizwa is watching. Ngoni says, "Good going, Wellington." So another one of your fellow sommeliers cheering us on. So I think, though, because when you suggested some of the wines I might be able to get hold of, I think you decided, Wellington, I'm going to challenge Dan properly. Not only does he have to say Altydgedacht, but he also has to say Altydgedacht Gewürztraminer, which is not very easy to say unless you've had a few glasses of wine. It's the first wine we're trying today, and it's a wine that I love. It's a wine that that big burst of sweetness on the nose belies a far fresher and far more savoury wine. Give us a little introduction to this particular wine, one we don't see much of in South Africa, and why you particularly like it, Wellington.
It's really something special. When I walked in at Altydgedacht, my first question to the winemaker was like, how do you achieve a good Gewürztraminer in South Africa? And Durbanville is quite a cooler area. I went to the vineyards yesterday, and I just love the breeze on the vineyards. The slopes were more of south, western focusing, and a nice eastern breeze was coming through the valley, reducing the temperature to almost 4 degrees comparably to the areas around. That allows beautiful acidities in the Gewürztraminer to make such a good wine, and that coolness that you need to make such a good Gewürztraminer. So the Altydgedacht Gewürz is 2019. Very, very beautiful wine. Gewürz means herb or spice. So you've got two big names, two Altydgedacht Gewürztraminer. Traminer is, so it's a city, firstly, where it started. It's called Tramin in Italy. So it's a spicy Traminer or spicy grape. This is quite a lovely grape. I think it's quite very perfumey on the nose. And it's a good expression of that spice and roses, and like a Turkish delight. It's something that you feel you eating something special, but there's lots of lychees in the wine, which is very synonym to the Gewürztraminer grape. The palate blossom with some beautiful florals. Yeah, very good floral flavors, and like some rose petals, some passion fruit, and a ripe peach flavor, and a lingering finish on the palate. It's quite an elegant wine, worth of a little bit of good aging. Something you can enjoy with like your spicy foods, curries, and sushi. Just a quick on the grapes we handpicked. What we do, all our grapes, we handpick them because of our vineyards are on steep slopes. Very lovely sun traps to the soil with the coolness as well coming through. And we individually sort the wines, distem them, crush them. And we put some extended maturation on the lees of the wine. That's where you get those autolytic flavors and some saltiness that comes through. 6 months prior to bottling. So the wine has got a beautiful texture and a beautiful weight on the palate that is quite expressive.
It is indeed. It's a lovely one. I think other than maybe the beautiful lady out of Nederburg, not too many Gewürztraminers I've had out of South Africa. This is an absolute delight, and I'm imagining it with one of my favorite dishes, which is cheese fondue on a nice cold night. I think this would be absolutely sensational. Also could go quite nicely, I think, Wellington, with some sadza nenyama and a bit of tomato relish. But next time we have a Zimbabwean gathering. I see another one of your fellow wine aficionados has checked in, Reginald Peckler from up at Cheetah Plains. What a phenomenal move you made, Wellington. You're an inspiration to many. Keep on climbing. We'll meet you up there, Reginald. Always good to have you on the show. And then another sort of Zimbabwean here, Wellington. This is a very important sort of Zimbabwean. This is my mother. A wonderful story, she says, and Wellington's Afrikaans pronunciation is better than yours, Dan. I won't argue with that. So I think,
yeah, it looks like a better Afrikaans than you.
You've almost got an Afrikaans accent. This is obviously a German grape, Wellington. Let's nip over the border and head to Italy before we wrap up with you, because the other wine we have to try, it's a big hefty bottle. This it's the Barbara. It's got the feel of a murder weapon. This, it really is a big solid bottle with some great wine inside. Give us an introduction to the Altydgedacht Barbara?
The Barbera, it's something very, very exciting. I think it's the third most planted grape in Italy. The reason I chose the Barbera, first and foremost, you need to realize that I chose the Pinotage and the Chenin, which are our South African varieties. But I just want you to have a taste of something different and something unique, something you can try. And it's these varietals are very, you find them on a few vineyards or a few estates. And I think Altydgedacht has got one of the most beautiful Barberas, one of the most beautiful Gewurz. And let me just go straight to the Barbera, which is more popular on the northwest of Italy. And some of the best DOCs there will be your Barbera d'Asti in Piedmont, which makes such high quality Barbera. It's known for low acidities and low tannins and high acidities. I really find this one with quite a medium acidity and a beautiful, firm, fine grain tannin. It's quite deep in color, with some ripe plum and some blueberries. Really sweet spices coming through, with a savory, smoky, dark fruit, toasty, oaky aromas. It's quite velvety on the palate, with a round texture that comes also with those beautiful spices. Well recommended with your tomato-based Mediterranean dishes and pastas. Can do very well as well with your like hard cheese and your cheese pods. Also hand-picked.
There's a lovely acidity to that, isn't there, Wellington? That's going to give a good Italian tomato dish a wonderful run for its money.
Yeah, I think the acidities are really exceptional given the valley. You will never understand the Durbanville Valley until you come to Durbanville, until you come to Altydgedacht and experience some of these cool climate wines. We've got a Sauvignon Blanc, we've got a Gewürztraminer, we've got a Barbera, we've got a Pinotage. We also have got an MCC, a Blanc de Blancs, 100% Chardonnay, which is quite exceptional, but let me not get diverted. One special thing about the Barbera is it's 26-year-old vines. So they produce such intense grapes, and we keep them like 15 months maturation in American oak barrels, you know, giving it a more coconut and toasty and lovely spices that comes through. So it's quite an exceptional wine. A touch of MLF just to add more weight and on the palate. Wine of origin, it's Cape Town, which is, we saw, yesterday I went to the vineyards again, and I went to the top part of the vineyards, and I could see the nice tip of the Table Mount and just the views also. When you come to this region, they speak their wine, they speak Altydgedacht. Always in my thoughts. It's like an affair with wine, which is something that I really cherish.
Well, I think after today, Wellington, you're going to be in a lot of people's thoughts, a lot of fans, people who might not have come across you up until now. I see Delure Club Vein saying Barbera is amazing. I'll have to say this is a particularly good example, and I think even the Italians would concede that the guys at Altydgedacht have got this one just right. Wellington, thank you so much for being part of the show today. Congratulations on the appointment with the BLACC Cellar Club. I think it's really exciting. It's a really exciting space, and we look forward to not just seeing more of you and your fellow BLACC Cellar Club members on the show, but I think more importantly, seeing the drive that you're taking within South African wine, bringing wine to more people, exposing it to more people, and just helping us to spread the gospel of South African wine, which, as we've seen today, you do with such passion and such polish. So, Wellington, thank you, and good luck with a new job in the heart of Durbanville.
Thank you very much, and thanks to all the listeners. And again, save South African wine, drink South African wine, buy South African wine. Let's support the industry. Let's support each other. Cheers and bye for now.
There we go. Tatenda Cheju Sikuru Wellington. Yes, another fine Zimbabwean export finding his way down to South Africa. The new chair of the BLACC Cellar Club and the new ambassador and sommelier out at Altydgedacht in the Durbanville Hills area. Well worth a visit to try those wines at Gewürztraminer, something a little different, but gee, it's nice. And that Barbara picking up on the Italian grape and doing it rich justice indeed. Okay, so we've had a Zimbabwean on the show. Time to go a little further north and bring in somebody from Scotland. Now, we're going to need a moment or two just to set up the subtitles for somebody from Scotland. So while we do that, the big lure this evening is to have a look at the Waterford Society. So before we meet our special guest, let's get a glimpse of what the society is all about. Some familiar faces there. The Paul Newman lookalike was, of course, Kevin Arnold, one of the great South African winemakers. Mark Leroux, his successor. And then the chiseled, kind of almost European model type who was floating about opening bottles of wine was Damien Joubert-Winn, who joins us for the very first time on Dan Really Likes Wine. What have we done wrong to not have him before? Damien, good evening. Welcome to your debut on the show.
Hi, Dan. How are you? You well?
I'm extremely well. I've got to do something to kick off before we start talking about wine and some brilliant wine we have to talk about. I have a little bit of a short-term memory issue at the moment. What was the name of that previous wine estate?
Altydgedacht.
You did it.
Wellington did tell me how to pronounce it. He did a good job. Actually, he said everything I need to say. So well done, Wellington.
He is a fabulous ambassador to South African wine, as are you. And you both come to South Africa from beyond borders. We had Wellington's story before we jump into the society and some fabulous wine. How does a Scotsman with a love of wine come to be resident in Stellenbosch and spreading the Waterford gospel?
So before we get into that, then I think I need to address the Celtic thing that you mentioned earlier on. Celtic is one of the old firms, so Celtic versus Rangers. It's where I'm actually from the other side of the country. I'm from Edinburgh, so that's Hearts and Hibernian. But my father said if anybody were to ask me what football team I supported at school, I was to tell them I was an egg chaser. So I don't support any football teams. It's only rugby in our house. So yeah, so I mean, I came out of university having studied sports science. Actually, I played quite high level sport, and and I wanted to do something in the arts. And so I was kind of in this upheaval moment, and I found myself partying an awful lot with one of the buyers for a large importer called Waverley in the UK. Her name was Elaine. And Elaine sort of plucked me from the crowd and said, listen, you've got a great palette, you're great with people, so why don't you study the WSET? And this was back in 2002. So I didn't bother with 1 and 2, I skipped to 3. I went straight to the advanced. I don't know if you can still do that. You could do it in those days. And then I was passed, obviously, not distinction and merit, but it came anyway. And then she said, listen, we've got a job at Waverley. It's looking after a South African brand. And I had just started dating a South African who I'm now married to and have moved and have a child with here. And I thought, hey presto, perfect. You know, I could work, I could travel, I could see the in-laws, we could do all that kind of stuff together. And unfortunately, I didn't get the job. And I ended up working for the largest competitor, which was Matthew Clark at the time, which was owned by Constellation Brands, so Hardy's, Ravenswood, and those guys. And so I looked after brands like Zevenwacht, Kleine Zalze, from South Africa. And very slowly, I was doing composite wholesale. I changed to specific wine wholesale. And then I was plucked from there to work for a specific independent wine merchant who had some great brands. And from there onto brands. So I worked a very short spell with the brands with Perrier-Jouet and Mumm Champagne. And I did about 6 years with a guy who did the Empereur campaign. We sold some naughty stock into Russia. And we did some fabulous brands. Waterford was one of them. His name is Doug Wood. He owns a business in Bridge of Allen, Edinburgh, and now a slight agency business in London. And you know, so I was exposed to Waterford. I was exposed to Abe & Sari. I was exposed to Molyneux. I was exposed to some serious brands. Allion, Valbuena, of course, hand in hand. Henri Boudon, Boyer, I mean, incredible brands. And I adopted a little girl in 2016, and we brought her to meet the in-laws, Oma and Opa. So I have Afrikaans in-laws in Port Elizabeth, and English in-laws. It's a long story. They separated, remarried, so in Noordeuk side. So we brought them to meet them, and I have my father left in the UK, my brother in Guernsey, and so very little support for an emerging family. And to see Oma and Opa with my child and our South African English in-laws here with my child, and how warm and receptive they were, there was just no question that the wealth that we could offer her here would be far greater than in the UK. So as usual, about 9 times I've driven over Okopseweg, see, I can do the ech, and said, why can't we move here? Let's just move here. I work in the wine trade. Why can't we just move? And there was always a reason: currency, corruption, politics, whatever the case may be, for my partner to say no. And this time, my partner turned around to me and said, "I think I'm ready to move home." And so very quickly, I sold everything. And moved us as quick as I was not waiting for a second opinion. I was here. So.
And it's lovely to hear a story like that for so many reasons, mainly because you just look so happy and so content with your choice, but also the narrative in South Africa tends to revolve around people leaving the country rather than coming into it. So I'm uplifted by that particular story. And then I also love the fact that South African wine got its hooks into you so clearly. And you'd tried wine from all over the place. You'd had your qualifications. You'd worked with all sorts of different brands. Can you put your finger on just what it was about South African wine that really conjured up something special inside of you?
I think, internationally, most people think that the wine, because of past exports, are often slightly warm climates, slightly manipulated. They always have a specific tasting note. You always kind of, in a blind tasting, think that's South African. And often it's never indicative. But the surprise when you find some great producers in this country, which are indicative of where their provenance or where they are, the situation, circumstance, their terroir, then you know that there's a real opportunity here to communicate that across the globe to not only the UK, but into the US, into Peter DeLu, or I think he was on earlier on, into Switzerland, into Germany, into then China. There's such an opportunity to just elevate the level of perception of our wine and the price of our wine into international markets, because we undervalue the wine because of past historical exports. So I want to make a difference in that space.
And a big part of how you make a difference, I think how Waterford make a difference, and I say this very openly because I'm a big fan of the estate. I've got some very good friends who are involved in it, is the attention to detail, the passion with which you approach everything. And when you come to visit Waterford, and if you haven't been, I highly recommend it. It's more than just dropping in for a tasting. You get looked after regally, and there are so many different points, the rare wine, the chocolate, the chance to maybe catch up with Mark or Damien or Kevin if you're lucky. And it's a really warm and engrossing space. And clearly, I think what you guys do, and this leads into the society, is acknowledge the fact that yes, you've got some great wine, but you've got to go more than just having great wine to ensure that that wine finds a market, finds a home, and builds up the kind of adoring fan base that I think it's fair to say Waterford now has.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about the way we communicate the wine. And the story. It's about what's inside the bottle, but also what's outside the bottle. And it's about how our guests, our friends, our partners relate to all of those elements, inside and outside. When you arrive here, I think people often think there's this huge Tuscan exterior and the stone, the imposing entrance and the imposing wrought iron gate, and then the fountain in the center, just that picture of tranquility. And when they get welcomed at the front door, I think then it's just like arriving home, and it's like arriving at your aunt's house. She's got some big place somewhere, and she's got food on the table, and you're just welcome to help yourself. It really is a welcoming space. And when I actually, funnily enough, when I moved here, one of my great friends in the UK, she's a yoga instructor. She drove up the driveway and she said, "Damien, you have landed with your butt in the butter, hey?" and that kind of sums it up, really.
Well, let's talk about that appeal and that allure in slightly more detail. In some great company, Joubert-Winn saying, "We're still here. Greetings from Belgium." And it's lovely to have the Belgians there. One of many countries that laps up the wine of Waterford. And there you can simply buy it. I pick up bottles regularly at my local Pick and Pay, the Peak and Stream range in particular, and Kevin Arnold Shiraz after my wife finishes yet another case in under a week. Such is a love of both the wine and Kevin himself. The Waterford Estate Society, it's got kind of a cool, slightly secret handshake vibe going to it. We saw the video at the start. It gave a sense of the essence of Waterford. Give us a bit more detail just before we try the wines we're going to this evening. What is society about? How did it come about? And what's the drive behind bringing it into play?
Yeah, so there's no black ball about it, really. It's not a secret handshake society. We are in Stellenbosch, of course, so you never know. But it was an idea we had. We've been dotting it around for a long time. Kevin has always wanted to do a society or a club or a members sort of environment, but not one like anybody else's. He's always been quite particular about having a different proposition and a different way of doing things. And so when we came here, you know, one of our values is prosperity, another camaraderie and sincerity, adventurousness, and so all of those things had to speak of what the society was. So it's really a space about camaraderie. It's a space where people who are like-minded, who have the same passion about wine, have got a space on the farm. They've got access to unique wine, and they share a common passion. And it's a place where they can meet or introduce and discuss, the experiences that they've had, whether with wine or without, that have brought them to this place. And on the farm, we were lucky enough to have a refurb at the start of the year. Unfortunately, we finished the refurb of the first phase in March, and then, of course, this global pandemic hit us. So the room has been really unutilized, but the room is magnificent. It's now called the Society, or the Gem Room. It's got one huge large table in the center of it for our society members to use, to enjoy, and it's their exclusive space. So they come here if they want to have friends around, taste, they want to pull some of their wines and or wines that we've stored for them, or purchase wines and just drink some back vintage, then that's their space to do so. They have access to the library collection wines, and we'll talk about that in a second. They have access to large formats or older vintages, and they get the pre-release of that before then we open that to general release as well. So there's lots of benefits. I mean, on the website, we list also preferred pricing with Angelus, etc. Obviously, every society or club in this country enjoys a preferred pricing model, but we wanted to take it further than that. We wanted to give people a reason to remain, stay with the society, stay with the farm, and be connected in a very, very personal way.
Which you do, because when you receive this box, and mine arrived a couple of days ago, there's a handwritten note. It's in Damien's handwriting, so you can't understand a word of it. So it's basically written in Scottish, but it looks really nice. I'm sure it says some lovely things. It also has the details of the wine. When you get your first one, you've got a little key fob that allows you to spend the weekend in Kevin Arnold's. Well, there we go. There it is, written in ancient Egyptian. And it's got all sorts of cool benefits, but the key part is the wine. And I think the latest one, there was some of the Chardonnay, some of the 2017 Cab, which a lot of people are starting to say after the tabloid blitz of 2015 Cab that maybe 2017 might even be surpassing it. But then also the library collection. We've got two of those which you're going to have a crack at. And the first of those is probably my favorite grape at the moment. I'm drinking this stuff by the gallon, and that is Cabernet Franc. Introduce us to your library collection and why it fits in the library collection. Why is this one in this particular space?
So we have Cabernet Franc on the farm. It's one of the blending components for our iconic, remarkable wine, the Gem. And really, there's no space. We blend a little bit sometimes into the Cabernet, though I think 17 is 100%. But we've never really given it a space by itself. And the library collection is a range of wines which allows us to play with either experimental varietals or some of the best parcels. So we are able to sort of take a block of vines, say, okay, cool, those 3 rows are doing something. So let's separate that, do something with that instead, and see how that plays out. Maybe we add a touch more oak. Maybe we put it into porcelain egg. That's how the Grenache came about. We played around with porcelain. We were the first people to bring porcelain in this country. We played around with it, and we ended up at 30% in the Grenache. So we're able to tinker and play. And the belief is that if we only ever do something the same way, we'll never get better. So actually what we need to do is experiment. We need to tinker. And we need to make that commercial, and we need to make that available to people to see the journey that we're on, and to see the little tweaks that we make along the journey to make the wine better. Cabernet Franc is one of my favorite varietals as well. It's beautiful. I mean, I think from Bordeaux, you think about Cheval Blanc, you think about Angelus, it's 55%, I think. You think about some superb wines with elegance and poise and that beautiful feminine violet nature to the wine. Still the pencil-led aromas that you get from Cabernet, but just this kind of poise and elegance, which retains a kind of chalky, dusty different to the ripeness that you find in other varietals. You do get some ripe Cab Franc, but for me, I'm always about minerality, I'm always about acidity, I'm always about elegance, and I'm always about mouthfeel. So that wine contains all of those elements. So yeah, it was. I think we did. I think 900 bottles or something of it. So it's very small.
Well, if you can get hold of it, and it's not going to be easy, it is worth doing. It's a great example. And at 2017, it's drinking delightfully now, but give it another few years, and I think it's going to improve even more. Lovely wine and a great addition, and thank you for including it in the collection. I'm fascinated by wine number 2, though, because my wife could exist entirely on Kevin Arnold Shiraz. It is a point of complete obsession. And in fact, I think she's got a poster of Kevin up in her office at work. But this is not the Kevin Arnold Shiraz. This is the Pebble Hill. And the Pebble Hill you kind of perceive as being, well, that's maybe the next level down. Is that an accurate perception? And what makes this Pebble Hill the special wine?
I understand the dichotomy, because you're absolutely right. We've got two ends of the spectrum. You've got Pick and Stream Pebble Hill, which the Pick and Pay owner buyers will know, and we do very, very well with that product. That's a Shiraz-led blend also. But the name of Pick and Stream Pebble Hill was named after a block of Shiraz on our farm, and contains some, of course, when the vines were younger. But those vines were planted in 1998, so they are 23 years old. Those wines, the Shiraz now makes up, from that vineyard, makes up a component part, or the second largest component part actually, of the gem. And so this was an opportunity for us to take some of that block and to really just separate it so that you could express the component of the gem, but see what we could do with it. So normally the Kevin Arnold Shiraz, which your wife very kindly enjoys, the wine, is no new oak. We never touch that with new oak, whereas this one's got 25% new wood on the blend. This is about 600 bottles. And so it's a very small block. We've taken the best berries, essentially, from that block, and we've tried it with about 25% oak to see what happens. And actually, for us, the Edition pH Shiraz is tasting beautifully. We're on the 2017 pH Shiraz, and then we're on the 2016 Kevin Arnold. But the library collection is an introduction to these wines, so that the serious buyers or the members or the people who just enjoy wine, because most of our wine is made and released in a good condition to drink, but can age beautifully. So the library collection wines are built so that they can be, I can guarantee, 23 years old, but 23 years old in the bottle. We can only taste back to 98, so I can't guarantee it'll be 25, though given what 98 shows, I'm sure it will go much further. So.
Well, yeah. The sacrifice I will make as a gesture of my friendship towards Team Waterford is to continue to drink them over the years and see just how well they can keep you on feedback. And what's really nice, and you've already seen the photo, but I got my bottle here. Every bottle of the library collection Shiraz that is sold, part of that money goes to a wonderful fund Waterford have to try and buy some more bracelets for Damien, because as you will have seen, he's just a little short on them, and we're hoping to get a few. Just before we wrap up, a couple of comments. I see Grant Saul saying Waterford wines are special. I assume the Society wines must be very special. Grant, they are indeed. I suspect a Society membership might be something you're looking at, which leads me to my final question for you, Damien. How does one become a member, learn the secret handshake, get the black and white of Kevin Arnold to hang on their ceiling? What's the process?
So it's very simple. Our website, www.waterfordestate.co.za/members. It's a very simple process. Either that, or you can contact one of us directly if you so have our number or our card. members form on that, you just fill in, and then one of our guys, Isabel, would contact you to get further information, your details. And then we simply sign you up. We then send you 1 case of wine. So there's 12 bottles, 2 cases. We send you 1 case of wine, which is the current Waterford release. And then we send you 1 6 months later. So there are options. You can pay in full, you can pay in part, you can, we try to make it as accessible as possible, not as exclusive. It must be inclusively exclusive. We want the wines to be special to our guys, but we don't want to exclude anyone from enjoying them. So you get 1, and then as we deem the next set of library wines to be ready for release, we roll then this 6 months later, send you another case, and so the one you've just received is your second case. Yeah.
And it was one that arrived with a very, very big smile on my face. If you're not sure about the wines, if you'd like to try them out, I know there's a terrific selection at Pick and Pay. So go and grab a bottle of the Kevin Arnold Shiraz, have a look at that Peak and Stream Shannon, get a feel for them. And if you do like them at Grant Stores, I know you will, drop them out. In fact, we'll just put Damien's mobile number up shortly. He's available 24 hours. Give him a shout. He'd love to hear from you. Damien, we've got some great Scottish imports to South Africa. I think you sit up very high amongst them. It's great to have you as part of our wine community. Thank you for being part of the show. Thanks for introducing us to the society. And we look forward to sharing many more glasses with you. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you so much for having me.
There we go. Damien Joubert-Winn joining us this evening as we wrap up our show this evening. One last comment, this one from Catalina Kirova. Greetings from Switzerland. We order Altydgedacht Barbera. It's a great wine we were introduced to on the farm by the owner, John Parker, and that refers to the wine with Wellington Muromba from a little earlier on in the show, the new chair of the BLACC Cellar Club and sommelier and ambassador at Altydgedacht. So that wraps us up for today. Leaves me just to remind you to join that Pick and Pay wine club. It's very simple. Just send your smart shopper number by SMS, by text message through to 36775. You get 3 times the smart shopper points, 20% off 10 wines each month, 25% off a case and a magnum each month, as well as loads of other cool benefits for being part of it. And best of all, it's absolutely free of charge. And I know that there are definitely Kevin Arnold Shiraz and that Pebble Hill range available, amongst others. I think they got the Cab Sav in my local Pick and Pay as well. So you go do some shopping, some great South African wine. I'm heading off to jump onto the Dan Nichols Show Instagram Live to catch up with Casey Jarvis, the South African golf sensation, who just earlier today won the African Amateur by 8 shots. Next week, who we got to look out for? Well, on Monday, what a lineup. Bubbles Highland, wine writer extraordinaire, joined us as we talk through some Chardonnay, including the wine of Richard Kershaw and something special for the team at Stark Conde. And on top of that, we have the WWF, their Conservation Champions Fund, wine from Vondeling. We'll be off heading up to Waterkloof, amongst others. So we'll be drinking their wine on Monday. And then next Thursday, Kleine Zalza, Karina Host joins us, along with Alistair Rimmer, along with Melu Lambert, with some of her favorite wines at the moment. That is next week. That does it for tonight. A huge thank you to Damien Joubert-Winn from Waterford for introducing us to the Waterford Estate Society, as well as to Wellington Muromba, new chair of the BLACC Cellar Club, doing such wonderful things for wine in South Africa, and also championing the wine of Altydgedacht in Durbanville. That does it for this evening. I'll see you over on Instagram Live with the Dan Nichols Show, should you be golf interested. Otherwise, see you on Monday for some more great tasting. Keep drinking South African wine. Cheers. Good night.